I'm really happy to be making this dish with you today. It's called chicken mofongo. I love words, and sometimes when I hear a word like mofongo, it just wakes up my curiosity so much that I have to learn how to make it. And so I began to talk with other people from Caribbean places that knew that word, and they helped teach me that dish. Ultimately, it became one of the most popular dishes at the restaurant, to the point where people got mad at me if I took it off. So chicken mofongo, long live chicken mofongo. The first time I ever had black beans was, I'm sure, at this restaurant on Duval Street in Key West, probably 1971 or 73. I was going back and forth between Illinois and Key West. And a friend of mine, a little bit more advanced than me in terms of the Cuban culture, said, yeah, check out the black beans, man. And I said, what do I do? But I mean, they're in the bowl, I just eat them? And he goes, no, dump them over the rice. It's beautiful. So we're gonna make a black bean sauce. And I've got a casserole dish on the fire, and I go ahead and start my butter, and a little piece of paper went in there. We don't want that. And some oil. When you do butter and oil, you do get different flavors, and that's the magic. Now we've got our mirepoix vegetables. Drop those in. And the mirepoix vegetables are a combination of carrots, onions, and celery. And I'll go ahead and add a little bit of S&P. And then I'm gonna stir those around. Mirepoix, the French term, carrots, onion, celery. And here, some olive oil and butter. And I'm moving it around to coat the vegetables nicely with that combination. And then I'm gonna let the caramelization come into play. And then we'll move on to next steps. In the meantime, I've got some plantains here. Now, you may know how to cook plantains to the state right here, but if you don't, let me offer you a little bit of a nice tip, a little trick. You go to a Latin Caribbean place and they'll have cafeteria at these places, and they will sell them to you just like this. And man, it's fast. So don't be ashamed to do that. I'm gonna just take a little bit of oil, come onto the griddle, and then I'll warm these up, and I'm gonna be making a mash with them in a few minutes. So onto the griddle, and then I'm gonna put my dome on here. Okay, they're already cooked, so you're just warming them back up so that I can make the mash much more readily. If they're cold, they're gonna resist that. We don't want that. Don't get into an argument with your plantains. That's a bad idea. All right, nice little action going on here. We're gonna go ahead and add some cumin. Now, this sauce will be strained later, so you can use the whole cumin seeds. I always love buying whole cumin seeds because there's much more fragrance and power. And what I do when I want powdered cumin is I will still buy cumin seeds. I'll put the seeds in a dry skillet, toast them off till I'm seeing a little bit of puffs of smoke, and then I'll put them into a spice grinder, and bam, it's got a whole lot more flavor. So we have comino entero, as we might say in Spanish with my bad Spanish accent. Now that's on the mirepoix veg. You give this a little stir. It doesn't take much when you're using fresh cumin like this. You can smell it. That's kind of aroma is toasty, it's earthy, very sensual, and very Spanish. This is a Spanish Caribbean dish all the way. Whenever I'm creating a dish, I'm thinking about what is the character of that dish. It's like creating a character for a book or a movie. I want that character to be clear to the audience. And so I don't, while I do fusion food and I'm known for it, I really like to make sure I'm staying in a lane that's powerful. And so for this dish throughout, you're gonna see that Latin Caribbean thing over and over and over again. That's how I make decisions. They're based in potent storytelling, really. So again, here we go with this. Next, we want some acidity. You could use sherry wine also. It's a nice bright vinegar. Spanish sherry wine vinegar would be great. And go ahead and add in your black beans. And these are cooked. These are not the hard kind that you're already having to soak overnight. It's not a bad idea, and actually I've become more of a proponent of the canned black beans. Never would have thought I would say that 20 years ago, but that's the thing about cuisine. You continue to learn and learn and learn. Now I've got the beans on there, I've got the mirepoix vegetables, I've got the acidity in the form of the vinegar. Now a little bit of stock, because we're making a sauce. That's plenty. And now I'm gonna let that cook for maybe 20, 25 minutes till it gets a nice soupy kind of consistency. So you can let that cook on a high heat and then come back to it. If it gets done, just slide it over or turn down your stove if you're cooking on a stove inside. Our plantains are already cooked, we knew that. We're just warming them up. So coming off there, scoop them up, getting into our bowl. We got our warmed up plantains here. We're gonna start without any more butter, and we're gonna see how that goes. But if I need to lubricate, butter's my lubricant. What I'm doing is I'm making the texture of mofongo, and that is, there's actually different kinds of mofongo, and people will argue about it like they'll argue about barbecue in different parts of the United States. But for me, again, I took a little different route. A mofongo is usually made with green plantains, so much more like a potato. These are the Maduro plantains, which I first fell in love with. As a matter of fact, I've been asked, what was the first thing that really convinced me to get into this whole Latin Caribbean thing? And it was the taste of Maduro plantains in a cafe in Key West. I had never had bananas that blew my mind like Maduros. So these are sweet, honeyed, deep. In the restaurant, I do this with a mash of foie gras. But here for home, just a little bit of butter if I need it. I don't want to make it oily though, because this is going to be stuffed inside of our chicken breast. This is what makes it, more than any other thing, this is what makes it mofongo. Okay, just about like that. And then we'll set this aside and let it be not so hot on our fingers when we stuff it inside the bird. There we go. Set this aside. Now we're cutting chicken, so we want to get another cutting board and make it hygienic in the best way. And so we're just going to come up here. And I've got two boneless skin-on chicken breasts. I love the skin. I love the flavor of it. I love how it helps keep the chicken moist. You can see we have two different size breasts here. That's just the way nature is. And when you're working with nature, you've got to be adaptive. So I'm going to know that this one's going to take a little bit longer. So what I do is I think about where I'm going to be on my griddle. All right, now we have a chicken breast here and here. We're going to take our boning knife and make a pocket. Be careful. You see how my hand is arched like that? Making this pocket like this, not going all the way through. Same for the bigger one here. Miss Dolly. Okay, just like this. Now let's see what this is like. It's pretty warm, but I'm gonna just deal with it. So this mofongo here already had a buttery quality to it already, so I didn't want to add more butter to it. Not because of the calories, just because I didn't want to make it kind of oozing out as it cooks. That's pretty hot, but what did the chef say once? Fingers are made to be burned. And I like to try and get as much in there as I can without having it come out the sides. We all know that we eat with our eyes, and so presentation is key. So to make the chicken look beautiful, we're just going to take a little extra moment here and take these toothpicks and skewer our bird a few times to make sure that the plantain mofongo stays put. I like to put them on an angle like this. This is the way I learned. So I'm going right here through the skin and through the breast. And this is a pretty big one, so I'm going to use 3. And we'll see. Yeah, I'll use 3 on both sides, because this is going to keep the chicken from wanting to open up. And it will on the heat. It's sort of what nature does when heat meets meat. Now, go ahead and put this over back and we'll get our escabeche spice mix. People ask me, what makes escabeche? Well, escabeche is kind of like one of these words like paella. Paella not only refers to the dish, it refers to the pan that you make the dish in. With escabeche, here it's a collection of spices that I make with cumin, salt, sugar, and black pepper. But escabeche also is a way of doing something quite similar to ceviche, but where you cook whatever you're doing, which is usually fish, on one side, sear it, don't cook it through, and then you would put it into the pickle, whatever the pickle is going to be. Okay, this is our escabeche, which I find many different uses for. That's good right there. And then here, again, just like that. Cumin, sugar, salt, and pepper. Because there's sugar, that sweetness will be there, but whenever you're cooking with sugar, you have to be aware that it could caramelize to the point where it could become burned. So that ratio between those things is important. You don't want it too sugary. All right. So we use this board, and we're gonna go ahead and put this cutting board where it can get washed, and I'm gonna go wash my hands and come right back. All clean, ready to go. Got our chicken spice rubbed, escabeche, canola oil on the griddle. We're basically sauteing, but we're sauteing on a griddle. Some people would call it a plancha, but want to make sure we got some nice heat, but not crazy hot heat. This is more of a gentle, medium heat, and actually I'll be able to go back and forth here and modulate the heat, play with the heat, figure out where things are at, and I'll be covering the chicken also because we want the transference of heat to go all the way through and cook our chicken through. This is not a medium rare situation with chicken. Our sugar has caused that nice darkening. Actually, the way it fell over there is kind of a lucky break because you're gonna wanna roll that bird around as it cooks. Like on this side over here, you can see, even though this looks almost like it's cooked, it's a long way from being cooked. But I'm gonna roll it on that edge to get the heat inside our bird. And I want to split that up a little. I don't want them touching each other because I want that heat to be coming up through all sides. We're convecting. This is called convection. When you put the dome on that like that, you're convecting the heat so the heat is working its way in a circular way around the chicken and causing it to cook nice and evenly. Key, crucial. You know, at home, if you're not working on a griddle and you're working on a stove, you're probably going to do this in a pan and then go into the oven and let it cook for 20 minutes. But if you're out and you're entertaining and you're on the griddle, it's nice to know how to do it here too. You note I didn't start a timer because you do not cook by a timer. A timer is actually only a reminder. They're handy to have, but they don't cook anything. So let's take a look. All right, that dome convecting the heat, I have a feeling that we are good. And we can let this rest at our cutting board. And I'll take those toothpicks out because you don't want your guests to deal with that. I've been making a version of this dish, chicken mofongo. I know I was making it in 1995 because I used to stand on the line with the guy that I was cooking next to. And he was funny, but he would say, if you love that dish, just call us up at 1-800-MOFONGO and let us know. Funny guy. Anyway, so let it rest, always with meat, but I can go ahead and pull out. Remember, we counted 1, 2, 3. You want to come make sure you have 1, 2, 3 again. 1, 2, 3, get them all. And if they're too hot, just get a little tweezers of some kind to get them out of your way. And now I'm going to take the black bean sauce, which is also at that place we wanted, the very black beans. Okay, we don't want to burn our cutting board. The stock and everything that we put in there reduced down so we have this really sauce-like consistency. So this black bean sauce, I want to make sure that you don't let it get dry, of course, but look at this. Look at that beautiful, I mean, the smoke coming off that, the steam. The aroma, of course, is what's really key. So we'll go ahead and take these black beans, my very black beans. I'm just gonna put them right in the center of the plate. I can't help but have this sort of time traveling experience like Billy Pilgrim in the famous Vonnegut book, Slaughterhouse-Five, how he became unstuck in time. And so here, the black beans, the way that I tasted them so long ago, and now the black beans become a sauce, because as a chef, I'm always just wondering, considering, what if I did this and what if I did that? How can I make it different today or to the next day? And whether it's in a kitchen, a professional kitchen, or it's at home, you can do the same things yourself. You know, it's food. It's not, you know, surgery. So don't be afraid to experiment, do different things. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at the bigger one, because I'm excited by that. Yeah, look at, here, I'll show you. Slicing on an angle like this is nice. It gives us a beautiful texture. So with our fork and our knife, you save those ends because they'll be your snacks tomorrow for lunch. And I'm gonna just go ahead and look at that. Look at that. We have that beautiful visual of the plantain. That's plenty right there. And when you cut meat, it's always a good idea to come back and season the cut parts, because there's no way that the salt on the exterior of the chicken is going to get all the way through. And so when you take a bite, you want every bite to have that roundness that seasoning gives it. All right, let's take a taste, see where we're at. I seasoned it already on top, and the escabeche is there. Beautifully moist. I adore the skin. I never take the skin off. Taste the sauce too. Get some beans. I think as a chef, you know, one of the challenges is people think they've had every chicken dish in the universe, you know, and as a chef, I also want to say, well, maybe not. So this gave me a chance to present something to the guests that I think tickled them when they read Chicken Mofongo, but then when they tasted it, I knew they never had black bean sauce, my very black beans, kind of a bold declaration in that sense. The caramelized plantain mash in the middle. The restaurant enhanced with some foie gras, escabeche spice rub. So here is chicken, but a chicken that you can make and serve to your friends, family, and they will be, I think they're going to be really rocked. So hope you'll make it. I hope so. It seems like so many people, and I'm sure it's due to social media, their lives are built on gaining attention rather than paying attention. Long ago, when I was first in Key West, there were these twins, Dennis and Donnie, redheaded guys out of Rhode Island. And somebody was saying to them, it was a party atmosphere, somebody was saying like, hey guys, why don't you take more pictures? And one of the twins said, we're making pictures. We're not taking pictures. And I thought, what does that mean? And now that I think back on that, they were in the moment. They were about making pictures in the sense of making life, not taking pictures and not being in life. It's that way with food. Not only when I'm cooking, but when my chefs are cooking, and comes that moment where the dish needs to be tasted. They'll have just worked hard, they'll have been busy, but at that moment, I want them to totally focus on evaluating the flavor of a dish, putting the spoon to their mouth, tasting it. I said, I want you to do that as if you're listening to music you love, headphones on. No one else is in the world, just you and the music. And that's the way it is, not only with music, not only with food, but as much as you can with every instant you're alive. That's paying attention.